Hey everyone, it's Leslie with Tier 1 Jank. Here to go through a deck tech. We're going to be going head to head in a little bit here. And I wanted to show you the deck that I put together most recently. It is definitely different. I know I am weird, but we're going to get through this. Just stick with me. So the first card I want to go through is Goreclaw, Terror of is it Calcisma? Calcisma? We're gonna go Calcisma. So this guy I have in here because first, he's legendary. You're gonna see in a little bit here that that's a theme with this deck. And also because he's going to help me get out some of my big guys that I've got in the deck. I should say guys and gals that I've got in the deck. Just about everything that I have in here that's a heavy hitter is power 4 or more. And I wanted to be able to use his cost 2 or less to cast as a way to help get those things out a little bit quicker. So we've got 2 Goreclaw, and because this is kind of a legendary build, I did want to limit every other creature I have in here that's legendary to just 1 copy. This is the only one that I have 2. Before I move on to the rest of the legendary creatures, I do want to make a note here on Vinemare. I did bring this one in, again, with that 5 power there. It works great with Goreclaw when it's out. I can get it out pretty quickly, have some extra mana left, but I love that this is hexproof. It really has a lot of ways to kind of get around some of that removal and stay out on the board a little bit longer. So I like this. I also like that it can't be blocked by black creatures. I know that that's not always going to be the case that I'm going to come up against black creatures, but on top of the hexproof, it's nice that it has that little bit of extra. So I have 1 copy of that in here. And we're going to move on to the legendary creatures that I have in the build. I actually have a 2-drop here with Shauna Sisay's Legacy. And again, I don't know how to pronounce any of these. You just have to work with me. So I have her in here. Again, she's legendary. Most of the time, I'm not expecting that she's going to be out when there's a lot of other creatures out, but she's a great way to get something out early in the game, get a few points of damage in. She's also great against cards like Ravenous Chupacabra, anything that's going to come out and have an ability that that's trying to get rid of other creatures or do something like that, can't target her. So that is fantastic. So I have a copy of her in here. I also have a copy of Danitha. She is the 3-drop, 2/2 with first strike, vigilance, lifelink. I love that the lifelink is there. That helps me stay alive a little bit longer. And she does make aura and equipment spells cost a little bit less, but I don't have any in the deck. I'm sure that that's something that could be put in here. There's a lot of legendary equipments, but it just wasn't something that really fit for me. I wanted to be able to get creatures out that were going to get those points of damage in pretty quickly. So, copy of her. I also have a copy of Mavrin Fiend. Again, he's a legendary. He's a 3-drop, 2/2. And the nice thing about this one is, even though I don't really have very many vampires in here, every time he attacks or any other non-token vampire attacks, I create, 1 or more. So him and another one would create 1. But still, I create a vampire token, 1/1 with lifelink, which, again, that lifelink is really nice. But to kind of go back and reiterate, this isn't necessarily about any one specific type of ability or focus from each of these creatures, except for the fact that they're legendary. And we'll talk about why in just a little bit. I also have a copy of Shalai. Of course, this is great for giving everything on my board hexproof, myself, making it so that those things can't target us. I also like that because we're running the green in here, her ability works really well if I have something else out on the board, especially if it's something that's big. I can kind of buff that up if I need to. Plus her flying's nice. I have a copy of Arvid the Cursed, and I really like this one because I think that he kind of is a high cost for a 3/3. But he gives other legendary creatures 2/2. And again, since this is kind of a legendary build, just about any other creature I'm going to have out on the board with him is going to be legendary. So it's going to get that extra 2/2. He also has Death Touch and Lifelink. And I'm not too worried if I have to pull him out to get rid of a Carnage Tyrant, say. I'm not worried about him going in the graveyard because we're going to have something a little bit later that I'm using to get those back out. I also have a copy of Ariel, Knight of Windgrace. She is really great with, I'm going to come up to it in just a couple here. Actually, I'll pull it out now, a Josu. I have a Josu Vess in here. She's really great if I can get him out with her too, because of that tap X untapped Knights. So that's an additional kind of ability I have against some decks if I can maybe get a Josu off after I've put her out and I have a little bit of extra stuff on the board to tap down, get rid of a creature, and help to keep my opponent's board clear so that I can get those points of damage through. So I've got a copy of her and I've got a copy of Josu Vess. And of course, running green, I'm going to go through in a little bit here. We're going to run a lot of ramp. So being able to get up to do the kicker for him and get out those Knights is really fun. So I have one copy of him. I also like just getting him out early in the game sometimes is nice. Him being a 4-drop, he has Menace and is a 4/5, so he's pretty tough. And it makes it so that if I need to keep something from coming at me, or if I kind of want to take my opponent's focus off of me or something else, he's really nice to put out there too. I have a copy of Lyra, Dawnbringer. Of course, she's 5/5, lifelink, first strike. I have her in here because she's legendary, of course, but I really do like that you get that lifelink off of her and that first strike. Really, really helpful. Next up for the legendaries, I have a copy of Grun, the Lonely King, and I know I don't ever say his right, but I like this guy. He has actually done a lot more work for me in this deck than just about any of the other creatures in here. So this is a 6-drop. He's a 5/5. If you kick him, it costs 3 to kick, and he comes in with 5 additional 1/1 counters on him, which would make him a 10/10. And the other thing that's really nice is if he attacks alone, you double the power and toughness. So if I can kick him and then swing in the next turn, that's 20 damage coming through to my opponent. So this guy's a pretty bad beast. And of course, the legendary of all legendaries, Mr. Galta. So this is our 12/12 Elder Dinosaur. Of course, having the ramp is really nice, but then also these creatures, because just about all of them are big power. So, I mean, we've got 5s, we've got 4s. A lot of these are real big people. He's going to be able to get out pretty quick if I can get something out on the board before him. All right. Now, our next legendary isn't a creature, but nonetheless a legendary. So I have a copy of Vraska Relic Seeker. And I know that we have the new Vraska that's come out, the Vraska Queen one, but I really like this Vraska a lot better. I feel like her ultimate is a lot more relevant and a lot more beneficial in games. And getting a pirate with her every time is really cool too. Plus her -3 ability, being able to destroy another creature or an enchantment. It's really versatile and gets me an extra treasure too, which again helps with some ramp here too. So I've got our Vraska. So next card that's coming up is the card that helps to explain why I'm running all of these legendaries. I have a copy of Primeval's Glorious Rebirth in here. So all of these guys kind of by themselves do something in the game for me that help to get some damage through, have some extra buff ups. But this is what's really nice. This is why I don't mind that any of these get into the graveyard, because the more of these that I have in the graveyard, and why I only have one copy of them in the deck, the more I can get back onto my board when I can get this to resolve. So Primeval's Glorious Rebirth. This is a 7 cost. It's 5 a white and a black. And you do have to have a legendary permanent, a legendary creature or planeswalker on the board in order to cast it. But if you cast it and it resolves, you're returning all of the legendary permanents that you have in your graveyard to the battlefield. So again, that is why I have only one copy of all of these, except for that Goreclaw, just because he's so helpful with that reduction in cost. So next up, we've got a few creatures in here that help with some of that ramp. Of course, I've got 2 copies of Lana War Elves to help be able to tap for some extra green mana early on in the game. I also have 2 copies of Drover of the Mighty. Well, hi, bub. How you doing? What's up, buddy? You gonna play Magic with me? Oh my gosh. Come here. Come here. Oh. Okay, so 2 copies of Drover of the Mighty. I totally could have gone with 4 Lana War Elves in here, I know. But I'm running 3. Sorry guys, those are my borders so that I know where my camera's at. I'm running 3 colors, so I really wanted to have the Drover of the Mighty in there so that I could tap for any color of land early on in the game if I could get him out. Plus, if I can get that, what? I'm sorry?
Sorry about the noise, I was just brewing.
Are you making some coffee?
I was just brewing.
We do brew a lot in here. Coffee, cards, weird thoughts. So Drover of the Mighty. Plus, if I can get him out when I have Galta out, he gets that little bit of extra buff. In fact, he also would get a little bit of extra if I can get this guy, Wayward Swordtooth, out. And again, I know that this one's not a legendary, but it's just so good in this deck for the ramp. Because it's a 5 power, if I can get the Goreclaw out, I can play it for even cheaper. Like, I play it for a green, literally, if he's out. And then I can get a little bit of extra land, too, that I've got in my hand out onto the board. I've only got 1 copy in here, though, just because if I don't run into it, not a big deal. If I do run into it, awesome, I can play an extra land. But I didn't want to put too many of these in here just because I think too many is going to thin the deck out with those legendaries. Last creature that I have in here is a Healer's Hawk. And again, I know this one is not a legendary, but I just love this little guy. A 1-drop, 1/1 flying lifelink. So great to get in a few points of damage, get a little bit of extra life for me at the beginning. Kind of flies over all of those little red goblins that people are playing right now, and just kind of helps me to get a little bit of an edge at the beginning. So I do have 1 copy of him in here. And of course, we can't have a red deck without more ramp, so I have 2 copies of Adventurous Impulse. That helps me get some creatures into my hand as well if I need to. I have a copy of Grow from the Ashes, and I really like this one because if you can do that kick on it, which is only 2 to kick, you get 2 lands out onto your battlefield. And so it's really nice if you can play a land from your hand. I mean, just think if you had that and a Wayward Swordtooth out, you play a land from hand, play another land. So hopefully you've got 2 lands in hand. Play this thing, and you just got 4 lands out on 1 turn. Talk about some crazy ramp. I also have 2 copies of Circuitous Route. While I know that this one's not as cheap to play as the Grow from Ashes, it does get me 2 lands guaranteed. I don't have to kick it, and I can also pull out gates, which is really nice for this deck because I do have, I believe, 6 gates that I'm running so that I can kind of have a little bit of choice on my land color. So I have 2 of the Selesnya guild gates and 2 of the Golgari guild gates. I do have a little bit of kind of some tricks in the deck as well. My main focus again is on those legendaries and being able to get those into the graveyard and then back out later. But I do have a copy of Flower Flourish in here. So I have the flower for the extra ramp if I need it, but then also if I can get a couple of creatures out even, I can do the Flourish and give 2/2 until end of turn. So a couple of big people, and that's a pretty nice swing in there. I also have a status and statue. So again, a little bit of buff up on my creatures if I need to, and on the other side, I can destroy an artifact, creature, or an enchantment. So that gives me a little bit of versatility with the deck as well. I also want to be able to sometimes pull some stuff back out of my graveyard. Again, I only have one copy of most everything in here. So if I lose something, and it was something that in a particular matchup I really need, I want to be able to pull that back out. So I have a copy of Recollect, and I have a copy of Nature Spiral in here. So Recollect is a 3-drop, but that's going to return any card to my hand. So if I needed to get some more ramp because I just wasn't finding any lands, I can use that, pull a circuitous route out of my graveyard and be able to get some more ramp, some more land on the board. And I have a copy of Nature Spiral, which gets me a permanent from my graveyard back to my hand. A little cheaper, but it is also a little bit more limited. To help with some control a little bit, I have a copy of Ixalan's Binding, and I put one copy of that in here just so if I really need to keep something from coming out over and over and over again, this is the card in here that I want to use. I also have a copy of Assassin's Trophy. To be completely honest, I would totally run more of these Assassin's Trophies in here because with wanting to get the creatures out on the board, I want to have low cost removal, but I'm a cheapskate and I only have one copy, so that's what we're running with. I also have 2 copies of Vraska's Contempt. The extra life gain on that is really nice. I have a copy of the Eldest Reborn, and again, I have this in here so that if I need to, I can pull a creature back out of my graveyard onto my battlefield, and this is a really great way. Even if there's not something on the other side of the board, I can put this out, they have to discard the next turn, and then I can get something out of a graveyard. And then I have a copy of Cleansing Nova, which allows me to choose to destroy all creatures or artifacts and enchantments. So again, some versatility. I want that in this deck. But it definitely helps to get a board clear. And this is really nice because with the ramp that I have in here, there's a lot of times that I can play this on turn 3, turn 4. So if somebody's kind of built up some steam, I can totally wipe it out. And that gives me some time to build up into something a little bit bigger. So I won't go through the lands with you. I don't have anything super fancy in there right now. I do have the one gate that lets you tap for any mana. You pay 1 when it comes in, and then you can tap for any mana. But everything else is either a Golgari Guildgate or a Selesnya Guildgate or a basic. So as we go, I'm just kind of playing this, finding things that I need to tweak. I really would like to see this turn into something that runs pretty smooth, and maybe I don't see it being a super heavy hitter, but as far as jank goes, I think that it's definitely something people aren't necessarily expecting. So I'm hoping it turns into a fun little deck that I can use for a little while. All right, so we're gonna go head to head in a little bit. I hope you come back and join us, and we'll show off a little bit of our jank in a minute here. Talk to you later, guys. Bye.